Hi there, it's Fran from psychicandenergywork.com.au, and this is part 3 of my video observations for May 2025. If you go through to the website, to the monthly observations page, you'll read about the MOs from certain angles. This month we have MOs of 12-3 and 1157, and the MO, there are 3 main numbers in numerology, and the MO tells us how the birth number states, how the what that we're about to step into, learn about, discover, and be asked to choose, as in, what sort of manifestation of this do you really want to produce in your life and attract. The MO tells us how, the sort of dynamics that are going to sort of lead us to those outcomes. Again, on the website, I talk a bit about 5s this month, simply because there are 5 5s in the chart, and that's a lot, and that's not even looking at your numerology. So if your numerology has 5s in it as well, be it by birth or just your personal year, you can increase, or should we say amplify, everything that I've written about the birth numbers and even the MOs so far. What I want to highlight in this video, though, is the fact that as I observe in the monthly observations on the website, this month's chart also carries a couple of 7s. Now, we've only got 2. Again, if your chart personally, whether that's personal year or whole of life, or even relationship with whomever, if your chart carries 7s, that'll boost again. But 7, in a sense, as I've written on the website, is the time for getting wise. It's getting wise to the point where there are no more questions left. There's no doubt, because you know what? I just know it. I've lived it enough to know what that is when it presents and how to deal with it. In a spiritual level. Yes, it can be egoic level, because of course every number talks about the egoic self and how it can present, not just the spiritual dynamics that can play through. On the website, I've talked a little bit about the spiritual dynamics, in other words, getting wiser, actually channeling, being the wisdom that we've come to bump into so far this life, and especially over the period involved. However, 7 can also be too much mind. Therefore, 7 periods, especially if they've got 5 5s, can feel like a time when I can't get out of my head. I can't turn my silent chatter off. It can therefore be a time where we feel overloaded with head stuff. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean words. It can just be, you know what, I'm just feeling extra foggy, or I'm feeling more invisibly bombarded. Not necessarily because I place it as that. It's just on one level, I'm feeling more heavy or stuck, or just not as clear and present as I know I can be. 7, at the end of the day, it is the mind world. And that doesn't mean it's all negative, of course. Mind does amazing things. But in imbalance, and of course, imbalance is often how we learn, and it's often what life uses to teach us and nudge us to better spiritual states. 7 can be a place, therefore, of self picking up more on the head stuff of the collective. You with me? As in, okay, you might work in a city, so every time you go, you may even live in a city. So just being in those vibes, not because cities are inevitably bad places to be, but cities have more people for every square inch, shall we say. And so therefore the head vibes can get louder, especially in a 7 time. 7 can also be your own thoughts. Again, it can be a period where, it's sleeplessness. I just can't come to peace. So 7, in a sense, is a very good time of us, or that encourages us to learn again or remember how to connect to divine energies, how to connect back to peace, which is nothing. It's spiritual nothing. The egoic realm doesn't like spiritual nothing. It gets a bit ants in the pantsy. Yeah, it can handle it for a couple of seconds, and then all of a sudden it's got to get up and do something else or entertain itself again. 7 can be too much opinion, whether that's because we witness it, hear it from the outside world, or whether it's because we ourselves are stuck in too much opinion. So therefore 7 as a teacher can be a time that first comes to us in a way that, you know what, we're being perhaps more judgmental or rigid in our thoughts, in our perceptions, in our understanding. Stubbornness is very much a 7 dynamic. 7 can also, of course, be mind games, strategizing in a way that, you know what, I reckon I'm being really clever, or I reckon I know enough, or I have enough power, to influence things in a way that just proves how powerful I am. Egoic self is very much a dynamic that seeks control, not necessarily from a power angle. It could just be, you know what, I can only allow so much in my space before I have a meltdown, or before I go into overload. 7 as mind can manifest in all sorts of ways. But because 7 is mind, it's not only the human mind. Dare I say it, it's not only the astral mind. In other words, yes, all right, the mind or the thoughts and the narratives of the human race, but also the thoughts and the minds of the astral dynamic, or the astral realm, spirit. Again, the thoughts and feelings of others, or even needs of others, even agendas of others that can pop in. So through these dynamics, and because again we've got 5-5, so let's just double back again. I've said already on the website, 5 can be a busy time. 5 is very much a stretching time, especially if there are 5 of them. So what am I saying there? 5 is one of the most active dynamics in the numerological chart, that is 0 through to 9. And because of that, it can present in itself, all by itself, as a busier time energetically, less grounding, less ability to disengage from the go, go, go energies, the push energies, the pull energies. You with me? Anything that's making us feel more wired on a very obvious level. And when I say very, that may not be glaringly obvious, but it's obvious enough for self to know, you know what, I'm not in balance. I've just got to when am I going to get a break? 5 periods, especially when there are 5, they can feel a bit relentless, because 5, bet your bottom dollar, can feel like boot camp. As in, you know what, the universe is your trainer, and it just keeps going, yeah, nice, you've run 10 kilometers, run another, run another, run another. So 5 can feel hot pokerish. 5 can feel as if the universe is having a lend of us. Just, poke, having a great time at our expense. Because 5 is also a time that can feel like all the cotton wool, all of the love, the support, the flow that was happening in previous periods, they've gone. They've gone for a minute. All of a sudden, it's like I'm more on my own. I'm being left more to it by the universe. So 5 periods, heavy 5 periods, can be times when people feel as if the universe has abandoned them. Now, at one level, we can feel like that with any number when things are out of whack, but some numbers more than usual, and 5 particularly so. 5 is the moment that cotton wool gets taken away. 6 is the moment where the universe hands it back, because through that 5 period, the universe is trying to stretch us beyond our capacity of what we know we are capable of. So therefore, 5 can be interpreted as stamina, resilience, the ability to last the distance, even if one puffs and cries and sobs all the way there, or at least part. And this year's been one of those periods that have just tested, they've tried. And it's 2025, 5 is there, so that's part of the equation as well. However, if I double back to where I started with respect to 5 5s together with just 2 7s, you might remember that numbers become, shall we say, important to look at when they appear 3 or more times in a chart, I find. They can still be potent at 1 or 2 times, but when it hits 3, a number, the tally of a number, often the themes and the dynamics that it tends to represent tend to play through more loudly, more obviously, maybe even more continually, in a way that seems to be blocking flow or balance on all other levels. So 7, because 7 can be mind, because 5 can stir and, should we say, unbalance a person, or at least a person's confidence, while they are getting the hang of what the chaos is about or what the chaos is trying to show them. Those two dynamics together can wind us up even more. Now, often when I'm talking about this stuff, I'll sound as if all I talk about is the negative. I'm really aware of that. But on one level, through doing that, I'm trying to highlight what things might come your way for you to harness and grow through. But you see, the flip side of any, what could be called meltdown, the flip side of any I can't that feels all-consuming in a way that just promotes tunnel vision, pessimism, lack of faith, lack of hope, giving up. That dynamic is only ever there. That dynamic is only ever used to the universe to help us, to push us into those areas of ourselves where we have yet to really know that life only ever supports, that life only does that to squeeze a particular pimple that existing somewhere in our narrative and therefore somewhere in our past, perhaps even past life, so as to get rid of the conclusions that were made when that grievance, that wound, that hurt, that conclusion was drawn. Because it is only egoic self that draws a negative conclusion. That doesn't mean that the divine self can't see the differences or the distinctions between balance and imbalance. Not so right versus right, or whatever those words are. But you see, divine self sees it in the big picture. So even if maybe it's not 100% yet, divine self accesses, or at least has access to, the big picture explanation as to why it's going on and how it's been pulled towards us to magnify something in ourselves to then grow through, learn from, and rebirth all over again. So the good news about this, May, to the degree that it does challenge, is that all it is doing is trying to lead you into a space where you see even more of your strength, even more of your brilliance, your value add, the reason why you're here, your potential, all of those sorts of words. 5 is a time that often feels like we're going to drown to begin with. And yet, as we breathe, as we let go of the need for control, as we let go of the need for all projection and therefore self-chatter, it's not going to be good, it's not going to turn out well, I'm going down, which we can all do when life's challenging. So this month is a period that may well lead you through those things, or even lead others through in a way that you're aware, and you're asked to sort of support and mentor, help other people access the big picture, however you do, even if it's just by giving them a positive chat. So this month is a month that it wants to show people possibilities, and therefore you. This month is a month that wants us all to stretch into that next level of knowing what we're here for, why things have been happening in the way that they have, from a good angle and also from perhaps a less than pleasant angle every so often. By squeezing us, the universe helps us grow. Doesn't make it easy every day, but when we remember that, we can let go of fighting with life, struggling with what's presenting, forecasting it forward, which in itself is a huge no-no. Just be present. We can let go of all those dynamics. We can breathe. We can take a step back. We can give the space to the universe, and we can just say, okay, you're trying to show me something that I'm not just seeing in my usual way. So I let go of everything. I let go of all atoms. I let go of everything I love. I let go of everything I don't. I let the entire world shift however it needs to, as an energetic, intuitive mind's eye exercise. Because often just by doing that, the perspectives get rebooted, the insights come in, the comprehension starts to birth in a way that all of a sudden I get it. I get why that's been happening. I know what I need to do moving forward. And for some reason through this moment, I am less influenced by the outside world in my ability to get on, add value, learn, grow, manifest, and live as I'm meant to. So all the very best to you in terms of the MO states for May 2025. Being part 3, this video, there's another one to follow, part 4, which will talk about the reality numbers for May 2025, the end states that the universe is trying to lead us towards. Take good care. Call or SMS or email if you need a hand. And thank you so much for tuning in.